The OnePlus 5 can now be had in pretty much brand new condition for $220. And yes, it's got a very obvious bezel on the top and the bottom, but that's pretty much the only criticism for a phone that right now will blow your mind in terms of value. Listen to this. It's got a 5.5-inch 1080p AMOLED display, making it the best you can get for $200. It's really bright and doesn't have any of the viewing angle issues you get with much cheaper LCD screens. It isn't as tall as most recent phones, so it doesn't fit as much content in on feeds, but what you do see pops, and the 16:9 ratio here is still what most YouTube videos are available in, and every app fills the screen. Oh, by the way, before I carry on, I'm launching right now a triple OnePlus 6T McLaren Edition giveaway. All the rules are going to be in the description. Okay, I'd completely forgotten how slick this phone feels. It's a little smaller than I'm used to. Not small enough to reach the top corner, but small enough that you can do most tasks with just your thumb. It's not necessarily a two-handed experience. The soft-touch, fingerprint-resisting finish hasn't really changed since this phone, and so it still feels just as premium as the latest 6T. Only much less chunky. And that's just it. The phone is only 7.3mm thick, and combining this with its featherweight 153-gram mass, it feels svelte in an age where flagship phones are actually piling on the mass to fit those larger batteries in. And yeah, this phone is behind in that battery race with a 3300 mAh capacity. But you might remember that when it was released a couple of years back, it even beat out smartphones with much larger capacity batteries, and that remains the case today. The smaller display, combined with OnePlus's light software, means that it's actually pretty efficient, and the charging speed still holds up really well, much faster than the Note 9 or even the latest iPhones. It's actually really powerful too, with 6GB of RAM and the Snapdragon 835. That's a 2017 component, and you've probably heard me complaining about phones now that are even using last year's stuff. But the difference here is that when you come down to the $200 price point, or even the $300 price point, you're up against mid-range phones using mid-range chips, and compared to that, an older flagship chip usually comes out on top. Let's take the new Xiaomi Redmi Note 7, a $200 phone generating massive hype because of its crazy value. And it's powered by the Snapdragon 660, which is a more recent chip for sure, but side by side with the 835, it gets crushed. The 835 CPU is about 5% faster, the GPU is about 50% faster, and it's using a more efficient 10nm process, as opposed to the 14 on the 660, and that gives it better performance per watt. Don't forget, that doesn't even factor in the better download speeds and support for faster memory on the 835. So power we've established, and if you combine that with the lightweight software, the phone feels really snappy. Oh yeah, and as a cherry on top, OnePlus is keeping it updated. In fact, you can download the Android 9 beta on it right now, and given that they're even updating the OnePlus 3 to Android 9, there's a pretty decent chance that this phone, the OnePlus 5, might even get an Android 10 update at some point. The camera is noticeably left behind by current flagships. There's no night mode, and low light generally leaves something to be desired, but you'll definitely forget that you paid $200 for it. Even at $300, it would still beat out pretty much every phone camera. You've got detailed, sharp, and punchy photos, you've got portrait mode, 2x zoom, and pretty well stabilized 4K video. The OnePlus 5 doesn't support microSD cards, it doesn't have wireless charging or an IP rating, but for me, the 64GB of internal storage is enough, and people have also tried dunking it in water and it seemed to survive just fine. Also, it does still have that headphone jack, which was chopped on the most recent 6T. The one thing I do miss is audio quality. It's not terrible here, but noticeably behind dual speakerphones. But yeah, if that's the main complaint I'm making when I'm moving from the Huawei Mate 20 Pro to this, I'd consider that a victory. So, is the OnePlus 5 a no-brainer right now? Should you all run out, queue up, and try and grab one while you can? Well, it depends on how okay you are with buying a refurbished phone, and also what deal you can get. For $300, it's good value. If you can find it for $250, it is a steal. And if you're one of the lucky ones and you can nab it for $200, shake that person's hand right off. Don't forget, giveaway rules are in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.